Hi again, Gregg Bell, the News-Tribune here at SoFi Stadium in Inglewood. A bitter loss for the Seahawks today in a game they really controlled. They lose 17-16. They should have had 28 points going into the fourth quarter. The offense giving away opportunities, especially in the first half when they had a 205 to 19 yards advantage. They led only 13-0 because two of those three drives ended in field goals instead of touchdowns. Let's talk end game here. You saw the missed field goal by Jason Myers. The Seahawks and Pete Carroll didn't plan for it to be 55 yards. They wanted to be closer. They had time to get closer even without timeouts. 18 seconds left. Geno Smith, clock running, is waiting for the play call to come in on his headset, his speaker earphone from Shane Waldron. For the only time in the game of 3.5 hours, the comms went out on that play. Smith didn't get a play call, so he had to come up with the first thing that popped into his mind with the personnel he had on the field. He calls a Zach Charbonnet run off the left side that mostly gets stuffed. Minimal yardage for lost time. Then the Seahawks have to scramble to the line of scrimmage and spike the ball in the next play, and it becomes a 55-yard field goal. Pete Carroll, after the game, didn't elaborate on any of this comms. Geno Smith talked about that. Carroll only said that's not how we wanted that thing to go at the end. If they pass the ball at the 18-second mark with no timeouts, if it's incomplete or if it's to the sideline, or even if it's complete over the middle, they still have time to spike it with more yardage. And at 18 seconds, if you're incomplete, you have a couple more chances to gain yards and make that closer than a 55-yard kick. You saw how closely that kick drifted to the right. Perhaps it's good from 51, we'll never know. But suffice to say, the Seahawks were shocked. I had my binoculars on the sidelines of the Seahawks sideline as Myers was kicking. Instead of watching the kick, I watched the sideline. I knew that I could see the kick later. Frank Clark had both hands in the air triumphantly. Darrell Taylor was next to him. They both were celebrating the win before the kick even went through. Geno Smith just had his head down. Looked like he was waiting for the ball to go through the uprights too. Why not? Myers had made 15 in a row. Geno Smith's injury, he said as he was getting on the bus for the plane ride back to Seattle that his elbow, right throwing elbow, still hurt. He said we asked him, can he play Thursday night when he had to have to play in 4 days against San Francisco? He said he didn't know. Wrong week to have 4 days between games, and now the San Francisco 49ers coming to Lumen Field Thanksgiving night with their quarterback banged up. Players aren't ready to play that game on a Thursday after a Sunday game in normal circumstances. Smith's absolutely going to be hindered on having his throwing elbow injured on Aaron Donald's hit to it early in the fourth quarter. Drew Lock comes in, and you see why a backup quarterback in the NFL having to come into a game is usually a disaster. They don't get any reps with the first team during the week. Lock hasn't in months. 2 for 6 and an interception on a jump ball to Tyler Lockett that Lockett had no chance to catch. The ball was inside, and the cornerback easily intercepted it. Lockett said if he had to do it over again, he would make sure he was the only one that had a chance to catch it, but the ball wasn't thrown high or long or outside enough for Lockett to do that. That interception led to the Rams go-ahead field goal drive to the go-ahead field goal. Penalty on Reek Woolen on third down on that drive. A key penalty that extended a drive that was the third down and long in the Rams' own end. 40 yards away from the play, another hands to the face. Second time this year that's been called on him far away from the play. I talked to Woolen afterwards about it. He said it was a, quote, BS call. He called it a sucky penalty, but something he's going to have to learn from if the officials are going to ding him for it yet again. He thinks he did. I asked him, is it a sucky call because it was 40 yards away from the play, or was it BS because he didn't hit him in the head? And he said both. Interference on Devin Witherspoon. I talked to him after the game about that. In the end zone, Witherspoon said he can't figure out and asked the officials what happened, why am I being called for that? The receiver didn't even hit him. He ended up running into Quandre Diggs, and Witherspoon just happened to be the closest guy to the receiver falling down in the end zone as the pass was thrown. That was on a 3rd and goal that would be first and goal at the 1-yard line. Suffice to say, the defense malfunctioned later in the game, and I talked to Bobby Wagner and a couple others in the locker room, and they said the Rams, Jaron Reed talked about how the misdirection in the bootlegs, Wagner also mentioned the bootlegs that the Rams went to in the second half were really effective. Stafford was much more static in the first half, and the Seahawks affected him when the Seahawks jumped out to a 13-0 lead. Second half, they got him out more, and the Seahawks bit quite a bit on those play-action fakes, and that's part of how the Rams' offense moved the ball in the second half. But again, the Seahawks offense had a chance to win this game both in the first quarter, the second quarter, and into the third quarter. This should have never been a 16-7 and then 16-14 game. Lots to cover here, and then a short turnaround for the best team they have faced yet this season, the 49ers, who are now 7-3 against the 6-4 Seahawks Thanksgiving night at Lumen Field. Coverage is at theNewsTribune.com and on Twitter at GBellSeattle. As always, thank you for watching. Have a great Thanksgiving week.